Here, on the edge of the National Forest, we come upon the lovely Derbyshire village of Ticknall, which is best known for three things: the ancestral home of Cork Abbey, the famous lion-headed standpipes which supplied the village with water, and this iconic bridge over the main street, which is more reminiscent of a canal bridge than a road bridge. That's because it was built by a canal company. When the Ashby Canal was first planned in the 1780s, it was intended to have branches connecting it from Ashby Wolds to Ticknall, Staunton Harold, Breedon and Coal Orton to carry limestone, bricks and coal. However, the first section of the canal was proving much more expensive to build than estimated, and a survey confirmed it would be difficult and expensive to build branch canals. So they opted for a horse-drawn tramway instead, which was begun in 1799 and completed to Willersley Basin in 1802, staying in service until 1913. The engineer in charge was Benjamin Outram, who favoured the plateway type of tramway. Plateways have short L-section rails resting on stone sets and secured by iron spikes driven into oak plugs, and the wagons have smooth wheels. The people who maintain railway tracks are still known as platelayers. The cast iron rails and the wagons were made by the Butterley Iron Company at Ripley, which belonged to Benjamin Outram, so a double whammy for him. Here we are on top of the bridge, which actually carried a branch of the tramway to serve some old quarries and a brickyard over behind those trees somewhere. This is the track now, which you can see is very overgrown. This Ordnance Survey map of 1882 shows the branch. There's the bridge, there's the overgrown track that we was looking at, and to the terminus here, which served the brickyard and the old quarries. At the side of the bridge we can see the red plaque erected by the Transport Trust in 2009, which shows just how important this tramway was. On the approach to the bridge there are several of the stone sets on which the rails rested, including one where the hole that carried the oak plug can clearly be seen. Here we are at the end of the branch where it joined the main line, which started at the lime yards. Limestone has been a useful commodity for hundreds of years, for agriculture, the building industry, glass making, iron production, paint making, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals and the food industry. At the lime yards, the limestone was heated in kilns to calcify it, ready to be crushed for use. Back at the junction, the brickyard branch joined the main line inside this tunnel, which is why the entrance is so wide. The tunnel was constructed by the cut and cover method, where a trench is dug, the tunnel structure built, then the whole lot filled back in again. The tunnel is 138 yards long and was built to pass under the driveway to Cork Abbey. Here we see where the tunnel narrowed after the junction. There are several of these roof grills for light and ventilation. Here we are at the exit from the tunnel, and as can be seen, the National Trust has kindly made the track into a convenient footpath. After less than a mile, we come to this second tunnel under Basford's Hill, which is only about 50 yards long. It's nice to see that this horse trough has been left in situ. The tramway horses would well appreciate it. Concrete horse troughs came into use in the 1890s. Here we come to our first level crossing across Staunton Lane. Special rails were needed for these crossings. As the tramway was single track, it needed certain areas called passing loops where there was a double track to allow two opposing trains to pass each other. There was one here at Staunton Lane, but there's not a lot of it to be seen nowadays, just a little bulge in the hedge. There was another one here at White Hollows, but again, there's not a lot left to see. This is a junction with the Dimmingsdale branch, which opened in 1829 and connected the main line to the Dimmingsdale quarries at Staunton Harold. These are now a nature reserve. There were two level crossings on this branch, the first one at Staunton Lane and the second at Heath End. Back at the main line, it crosses Heath Lane over into South Wood. This has to be my favourite section of the tramway. Apart from a muddy section at the far end, the walk through the woods is extremely pleasant. And apart from the rails being raised, the tramway itself has been left pretty well undisturbed. As can be seen, the mature trees are wider apart here. This is because this was the South Wood passing loop. The tramway emerged from the wood through this rather overgrown exit. It then travelled across the field following this line of trees until it reached the other side, where it then passed along this embankment, which now has a hedge growing on it. At Ashby Old Parks, the main line was joined by the branches from Breedon and Colorton, where they then passed through the Ashby Tunnel. By the tunnel was Tunnel House, which had a weighbridge for the use of the tramway. This is the site of Tunnel House today. Here we see the tunnel in the early 1900s after it had been enlarged by the Midland Railway. And here we see its sad remains today. After the tunnel, the tramway carried on down through Ashby and Willersley to join the canal at Willersley Basin. In Ashby, most evidence of the tramway has disappeared under later developments, but there are one or two exceptions. Callis Bridge carried the tramway and later a branch of the Midland Railway over Derby Road. We see it here about 1900. And it's nice to see a little bit of it has been retained as a reminder. There was a level crossing across Burton Road, which then carried on down what is now Trinity Court. There was a second crossing over Kilwardby Street, which we can see here in the 1900s. Here we see it today, where it crosses over Kilwardby Street. It then passes into what is now Churchside Walk. It emerges in Wilfred's Place, which used to be part of Bath Street. The rest of the route to Tamworth Road is now covered by housing. It crossed Tamworth Road here, south of the town. It then followed what was Willersley Lane, now Willersley Road, through Willersley Park and Willersley Wood, past this nice lake, and then crossing the road here at Willersley Wood End, before finally arriving at Willersley Basin, of which these few ruins are all that remain. In 1845, the canal and tramway were bought by the Midland Railway. This is what the tramway looked like before the takeover. In 1850, they completed their line from Leicester to Burton-on-Trent, and as the land south of Ashby was leased and not owned by them, they closed the tramway and lifted the track, with a transshipment point in Ashby near their station. This shows the tramway after 1850. In 1875 they used most of the tramway bed and enlarged the tunnel for their line from Ashby to Derby, with a transshipment point at Old Parks. This shows the tramway after 1875. This left just the Ticknall line until it was finally abandoned in 1915.